Okay, so here is the Audi S3 saloon, which I bought from a friend, which is nearly about on the road. When I first picked this up, it was a state, and I've slowly rebuilt this thing, but there is one thing that just hasn't gone away, and that is this misfire. Now, I've tried everything, spark plugs, injectors, coil packs, servicing it, and still it's there. Now, I'm going to have to apologise for a few of you for this because I just didn't listen to you. I assumed that this part would have been picked up by the diagnostic tool, but it just wasn't. Right now, the engine is misfiring severely, but check this out. If I unplug this plug right here, instantly she's fixed. Now, what I unplugged is called a magnetic camshaft sensor. There's actually 2 of them on this engine. According to you guys, they're quite common on these engines to go. And when they do go, it causes lumpy idle, a misfire, and of course, an engine light. I was just so ignorant in thinking that the diagnostic tool would have picked up the faulty sensor, but obviously not. So we've got to replace those 2 camshaft sensors before we can try and get this on the road and get it past an MOT for Liam, ready to drive. So who would have thought it? 2 faulty sensors were the cause of that misfire all along. At least we've got peace of mind though that we have fresh coil packs, fresh spark plugs, fresh injectors, and a full service as well. The 2 sensors were only 50 quid each, and they were pretty easy to replace. They were just at the side on the top of the engine, 3 torque screws to remove them both, unclip the electrical connector, and then they pop out. And once I've got them out, I can pop the new ones back in, and fingers crossed, that should be the fix. Okay, so the old ones are off. Liam is going to do the honours. This is the last and final time we are addressing this misfire. I'm telling you, this has surely got to have fixed it. It's when it comes off, it's cold start, isn't it? Because cold start's always been good.
It just goes like, just
yeah,
nuts. It
that's when it's just bad. So far, so good. I'm going to call it now and say that has fixed it. Shout out to everyone that commented on the video and helped. I'm going to say that has fixed it. I think it's it. It's done. It works. It's running fine. So the S3 is booked in for an MOT test tomorrow. The time is 8:30 actually at night. We've got to prep this ready for the MOT so we can get it on the road and Leon will finally be driving it. Let's crack on with the rest of the stuff. So one thing that I forgot to mention is that the S3's had a brand new windscreen fitted, as the one that came on the car was, well, pretty battered. So now we put the wiper arms and the blades on and check the washers work. It's on to the next job, which is the seat belts. With the airbags going off in the car, it locks out the front seat belts. And in the last video, we replaced all of the airbags, but we just didn't have the seat belts. So I picked up a pair of seat belts on eBay and we just need to pop them in and it's ready to go. The seat belts are pretty easy to replace. They're just behind a load of trims. We have to plug the electrical connector in for the airbag sensor, run it up to the top, fix it up at the top, and then run it down to the bottom and fix it down the bottom before putting all of the trims back on again. And there we have 1 working seatbelt. Well, 2. Liam did the other side. All we've got to do is plug in the diagnostic tool and cancel off the airbag light off the dashboard. Okay, we should have no more lights. Maybe a tyre pressure warning light. Possibly. Well, we will have a tyre pressure warning light. We've got to reset the tyres. Come on. Yeah, man. No warning lights. Apart from the tyre pressure warning light, which we can do. We need to do the tyre pressures first though. Now there is one thing that we are missing from the engine, and that is of course an air filter. Now I've not gone and replaced it with the standard airbox, which was absolutely smashed in. Of course it had all the front end damage this side. We've gone and replaced it with an induction kit. Liam, where did you get that induction kit from?
A website.
What was that website built with?
Squarespace.
Well, that's a coincidence because Squarespace have sponsored today's video. From websites to online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build and run your business. Now, if it wasn't for a really good website, then we wouldn't have found this induction kit for a really good price. So if you haven't got a website for your business or your blog or for whatever you do, then Squarespace is the place to start. Check this out. Now, if you're a little worried and overwhelmed about starting a website from scratch, then you don't have to be, because Squarespace have got so many templates to choose from. I'm going to start with this one. Once I've got a template, I can then go in and drag and drop my logo in there. I can even edit the size of the logo as well. Not only that, I can go in and drag and drop my own images in there and edit any text on the website as well. And this is just the start of it. Squarespace allows you to run amazing email campaigns, again using some good templates. And also with help from the analytics, you can see who is viewing your website at what time. So when you need a website, go to squarespace.com or just click the link in the description box below, and when you're ready to launch, use code Matt Armstrong, and that's going to give you 10% of your first website or domain name. Let's get this induction kit fitted to the S3. So one thing that we didn't get with this induction kit was the turbo elbow, which is here, which is a little plastic thing which connects to the turbo. This is actually supposed to increase throttle response and give it a little bit more power, so that's something we'll get onto at a later date. But for now, I've installed the silicone hose, and then I can start to assemble the heat shielding for the air filter. In my Golf R, I went for an enclosed induction kit, whereas on this S3, we've got an open air induction kit, so it should sound even better. And hopefully the heat shield does a good enough job to stop heat soak. With the heat shield and the silicone pipe in, all that's left to do is to connect this foam air filter, which sort of pops in these clips here. Then I can tighten up the Jubilee clips, and there it is, as simple as that. Okay, Ram Air induction kit is now fitted, looking fresh, but we want to hear what it sounds like. Has we got a little whoosh noise? Go on, Liam, start it up, we'll warm it up, and then we'll give it a few revs. We've also realised as well we are missing a vacuum line here, which is probably on the old airbox, which goes from this part of the induction kit to somewhere in the inlet manifold maybe, but we'll order that. I'm not sure how vital that thing actually is though. Okay, give it a few revs. Oh. That sounds sick. So the S3 is just about ready for the road. And if any of you guys know of Liam, you know how bad of a driver he actually is, crashing most of his cars. So I thought I'd give him a little driving lesson before he heads out in it for the first time. Oh, sorry. And finally, for the last manoeuvre, if you could just reverse park into that parking bay. And that's a pass! You're on your way. And of course, we've got a pass. Now we can begin the fun stuff. So with the Audi S3, the sort of plan was to make this sort of fast, practical, but also a car that Liam can take to car meets and car shows with all of my cars as well. Hence, the next modification. We took a trip to Car Audio Security, and I let Liam have the roam of picking out the second modification for the S3.
Always on time when the rent's due. I don't want to grind just to get through. Trying to spend mine like a bitch.
So we have just picked up air ride for Liam's Audi S3. We've gone for airlift suspension and 3P management, the same that's on the Lamborghini. Before all the air ride haters start crying about air ride, let me tell you the pros and sort of the few cons of having air ride. So the pros, you literally can adjust your ride height at any point. You can go up or down just from a touch of a button inside the car. You've also got camber adjustment and rebound adjustment as well. And all of airlift suspension is tested on the track, so it's more than capable of coping with high power performance cars. I've got it on an 830 brake Lamborghini. And the only cons I can sort of see of air ride is that it's fairly expensive. But we're trying something different with this, and we're trying to make it into sort of like a practical, reliable, fast show car style. And before you start, don't worry, it's not being wide-bodied. Let's get this thing fitted. And plus, the air ride was Liam's choice, not mine. So along with the air ride struts, you also get an air tank. You have a line that goes in, a line that goes out, and a line at the bottom to manually push air in if anything failed. Now we've gone for a smaller tank because we're hoping to hide it in the spare wheel well in the boot. That way Liam doesn't lose any boot space because he needs to put a pushchair in there now and then for his little girl. So this mod can be practical and cool. So with the boot completely stripped out, it's time to see if the tank fits. And it fits perfectly. Time for the exciting part, the wiring. Now there is another con to air ride, and that is it takes a lot longer to fit than just your normal suspension. With the wiring, we've got to wire it from the boot all the way to the front where the battery is located, which means hiding it along the trims inside the car, and then also finding a hole in the firewall so we can go directly to the battery. Not only that, what I'm doing right now is wiring an ignition live wire to the cigarette lighter in the boot. That way the air ride should only come on when the ignition is on. With that done, I could ground the cable to this ground wire which I've shared with something else at the front, and for the positive cable I'm going to be connecting it to this connection right here, which is just a wire which goes directly from the fuse box straight to the positive cable on the battery. That way it'll be hidden away and look more OEM. With my electrician skills out of the way, it's time to do a bit of carpentry, which is questionable. Again, this doesn't have to look pretty because we're hiding it away in the boot. So as a team, me and Liam created this sort of mount, which is held down by the screw on the spare wheel, which we mounted the air compressor to and the management system to, which saved us from drilling directly into the boot floor. With all that wired and plumbed into the boot, I can now remove the arch lining and start guiding the air lines from the wheel arches and routing them into the boot, which will eventually connect up to this management system here. The rears were pretty easy to route, as you can imagine, but the fronts took a little longer as you have to route 2 air lines all the way from the front arches to the back of the car. Okay, so right now it's 12:55. It is the next day and we're still going. So we've got literally all the lines now wired in or sort of plumbed in for the air ride on each corner. And the interior, well, the interior is all back together now. The lines are running along the side trims all the way to the back here, where we've got the sort of whole mechanism or mess. This is all going to be covered over. It doesn't have to look that pretty. We've got the air tank. We've got all the lines running to that now. This has been like the hardest part of it, just trying to figure out where we're going to put everything. There's still a lot of trims to go back together. But actually the easiest part of this is actually putting the suspension, the airbags actually onto it. Well, I've said that now. Fingers crossed that's the easiest part. We're just doing the last little bits of wiring, sorting out ground cables for like the compressor and that sort of stuff as well. It's an absolute minefield. But fingers crossed we can get the bags on after this. It's doing it. Come on, we're doing it. So now I'm going to put all the boot trims back on, including the boot floor as well, and hopefully that will cover up all of the air ride system. How will they know? With all that hidden, it looked pretty good. Now it's time to move on to the struts. Removing the front suspension is pretty easy. Once the drop link's out and the strut bolt, I can remove these 3 bolts which hold the ball joint on the bottom of the wishbone. This is just going to give me a little bit more leverage when pushing the wheel hub down to remove the strut from the clamp here. Then all that's left to undo is the 3 top mount bolts which are underneath the bonnet. And here is the old suspension unit. On goes a new, shorter drop link, and then in goes the air ride. It's exactly the same as fitting the standard suspension. Only difference is that you've got to connect an airline and mount it in a place where it's not going to get caught on anything or snag when you're driving. You can see where I routed it here, which the arch lining should cover up. I made sure that the car can do full lock both ways and it wasn't going to snag on anything either. Again, moving on to the rears, which are even easier. There's only about 3 bolts to undo to remove it. The one on the hub, the one on the strut, and then also the anti-roll bar bolt as well. There's 2 bolts holding the top of the damper in and an electrical connector as well. Once the strut's out, you can pull the spring out. Then I can pop the new airlift strut in, route the airline, cut it to size, and pop the rear airbag on the rear arm. Okay, we're all in bar the arch lining because we want to turn everything on and make sure it works before we put the arch lining in and the wheels on. Now I can see it. Well, if you took this to a garage to do, I imagine the labour cost would be extortionate. Altogether, it's probably took us like a full day if you added it all up. All the struts are in. They're looking nice and clean, front and rear. Let's hope everything works. So there's the controller. Should all light up with the ignition. Yes, we've got power at least, and the compressor's going. It's good news.
Push it in.
We just need to set this up, put some air in the bags, get the wheels on and lower it down. I'll check back with you once that's done. Come on. And we're back. So right now we're fully calibrated, and this is sort of stock height. So this is literally the ride height at the minute, and this is pretty much stock height, which is the good thing about air ride. We've got damper adjust, rebound adjust. We can also adjust the camber as well. But we're gonna roll this thing forward. I'll show you outside, and then we can show you the 3 settings, including the one we've all been waiting for, the aired out mode. This thing looks absolutely ridiculous at the minute. You guys are going to really have to bear with me on this build, but just look at it. Just look at the front wheels. They're literally hidden, and it's just funny because we've done suspension and there's so many more things that this car needs, like paint on the wing and the bumper and a few dents removing here and there. My personal favourite, the rear wheel. Well, it's just completely hidden. Another great thing about air ride is that no one could steal these amazing, really good condition wheels now, because you can't get a jack under it. That's of course unless you hire it up, but if you stay parked, no one can steal them. Now you guys, and of course Liam, are going to really have to bear with me during this build. This is just laying the seeds. It looks absolutely ridiculous at the minute, but I'm sure this is going to turn out amazing. Now Liam isn't here, so Hannah can demo the air ride. Hannah, so let's demonstrate drive height. We've got the controller here. We'll tap the middle button 3 times, and just like that, we are at drive height, which is a little bit lower than your usual height, but it looks quite nice. We do need new wheels and all sorts of stuff, but that looks pretty good. And now do the honors of going to the highest height. Well, the high height, it's up 3 times. And then this is sort of a high height. Well, this is probably stock, maybe a little bit higher than stock, but that is getting over speed bump height. But I think you guys get the picture, or you probably just think I've lost the plot, or you probably thought I lost the plot a long time ago. But this, trust me, it's going to turn out good. It's going to turn out good. This is just the start of it. But if you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.